Hello. So America's a big place, isn't it? It's something I've talked about before. But do you ever sort of try to visualize what the map of the United States looks like in your head, and then you come to actually look at it on a map, and it's not quite aligning with what you had in your brain? Well, that happens to me quite a lot, and I realized that this was the case just recently as I sat down to study the map of the United States in greater detail. And I noticed many quirks about the United States that were more than noteworthy, so I thought I'd note them here, which suggests they're not more than noteworthy. They're simply noteworthy. They're not. They're actually quite astonishing, some of these. So without further ado, let's get cooking. Not cooking. There's no food. It's maps. So there are two states out of the 50 that jointly hold the record for the most neighbouring states around them, and that number is 8. Can you guess the two states in question? You're not here, so you can't answer that. I'll have to answer it for you. Those two states are Tennessee and Missouri. They even neighbor each other and share one or two neighbors. So Missouri is surrounded by Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee itself, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, while Tennessee is neighbored by, yes, Missouri, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. So 8 each. But of the states that have neighbouring states, which state has the fewest? Well, I'll tell you now, it is Maine with 1 neighbouring state, and of course Alaska and Hawaii don't have neighbouring states, they just have neighbouring water, and Canada in the case of Alaska. So just some interesting quirks there to get us started on sort of neighbouring states. Another quirk, of course, of neighbouring states, I suppose, is the Four Corners Monument, which you'll find joins together all of the corners of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. And you can actually stand there and go round in a circle and cut through all of those states within seconds. Really interesting. Wouldn't mind doing it. I've often thought it'd be great to just take my own pole there and just stick it in the middle of the monument, right? And then spin around it, basically pole dance around it, and be kicked out of the monument for damage. So I wouldn't actually do that, but maybe I'd break the record for the amount of states gone through at any one time. But let's move on now to the really interesting stuff, the stuff that you wouldn't imagine in a million years is true, but is. So this is a weird one, right? There's the state of Virginia and the state of West Virginia, and they came about as a sort of breakup of the Virginia colony, and so that you had West Virginia, in theory, to the west of Virginia, right? Well, it turns out that that's not entirely true. There is a part of Virginia that is to the west of West Virginia. This is something I discovered en route to Grundy, Virginia, which itself is not west of West Virginia, but it is indeed south of West Virginia, so that makes it even more confusing. But you go a bit further along, and there is indeed a part of Virginia that is to the west of West Virginia. That is mental and mad and brilliant at the same time. So the United States map is kind of replete with places that you can't believe are actually west of certain places. For example, the state of Michigan is partially to the west of where I am right now in Chicago. Don't believe me? Take a look at a map right now. It's that landmass on the other side of Lake Michigan, and it actually goes over Wisconsin and pushes out to the west of Chicago. You could even say that there is a part of Michigan that is further west than the Mississippi River. Quite hard to imagine. It's quite hard to visualize without a map in front of you, or at least it is for me. I was astonished when I saw that. But that is indeed true. Now, while we're on the subject of Michigan, let's take the city of Detroit, right? So quite a Midwestern city, or at least a Midwestern location. But did you know the city of Detroit is actually to the east of Atlanta, Georgia? That's right, Atlanta, Georgia is more west than Detroit, Michigan. You can even confirm this by looking at a longitudinal, latitudinal map to see where the lines meet up. And indeed, of course, it does show just about that Atlanta, Georgia is more west than Detroit, Michigan. On similar lines, you've got Charlotte, North Carolina, believe it or not, is entirely to the west of the entirety of New York State. Not New York City, but New York State. It actually goes further west, just about, than that entire state. So that blows my mind. I think in my head, I sort of see the East Coast, which includes Georgia, not necessarily Atlanta, but the state of Georgia and the Carolinas. And in my head, I'm thinking they're all sort of in a line with each other and with New York and all of those states up there. No, not at all. Of course, it comes in like that. The more south you go. My mind plays tricks on me. Let me know in the comments below, by the way, if this is as astounding to you as it is to me, just to sort of see this on a map now and to really think about it. And we do have more of this kind of thing coming coming up later in the video, but now I just want to give a bit of recognition to one state in particular, and that state is this one. I don't have too much to say about this other than the fact that the state of Montana is actually larger in area than the nation of Germany. Now, of course, by definition, that means so is California, so is Texas, and so is Alaska. They are all states that are bigger than Montana. But Montana's not, I suppose, one of those that you sort of instantly think of as one of the grand states. But it is. It's the fourth largest state in the Union. And as I said, it is larger than the nation of Germany by about 10,000 square miles. So Montana, you are massive and you need to be stopped. It's as simple as that. Let's have words. Now, no, let's not have words. If you'd beat me, you'd beat Germany. If this were Top Trumps, you'd be destroying Germany right now, and many other nations as well, at least on size alone, although size isn't everything, as we know. So you'd be beating it on mountains too. You are the winner, Montana. Anybody in Montana care to address that? Let me know below. But we're going to move on now to an even bigger state, the biggest state in the Union, indeed, and a state that has a surprise for us. So it's probably no surprise to anybody, of course, that Alaska is the most northern state in the United States. It's also the most western, having stretched out way into the Pacific. But did you know it's also the most eastern of the 50 states? Yes, that's right. I did say eastern. You'd think that's crazy, right? With Maine being way out there. No. Take a look at a world map of where the west begins and the east ends, the east ends, and you'll actually see that Alaska falls into that side of the map and is therefore, by very definition, the most eastern of the states. And in fact, it's one of the most eastern land areas on the entire planet. So, well done, Alaska. You are the most western, eastern, and northern state in the Union. What's the most southern? It might not be what you think. So when you think of the South, of course, in the United States, you think of these states predominantly, I think, and that excludes, of course, New Mexico and Arizona, who are geographically to the South, but not what is sort of culturally considered the South here in the United States. But none of these states that you see right here are the most southern in the entire nation. No, that accolade goes to another non-mainland state, and that state is Hawaii. That narrowly defeats Florida in being that little bit further south, and so it takes the accolade. So none of the states can lay claim to being the most southern, western, northern, or eastern, which was quite a surprise to me to find out. But that's not to say that those southern states, that some of them aren't themselves quite south, as evidenced by our final entry. Okay, it's called the Deep South for a reason, perhaps not the reason that I'm about to present to you, but that doesn't stop me from doing it anyway. So this one blows my mind if I'm not looking at a map and somebody tells me this, right? So the cities of Miami, New Orleans, Mobile, Alabama, San Antonio, Austin, and Houston in Texas, they are all south of the most northern tip of Mexico, right? Which is, roughly speaking, Baja, California. You've got this area in Mexico that is north of all of these places along the southern United States. In my head, again, I'm thinking that, Mexico is entirely to the south of the United States, but it's quite considerably to the north of some of these aforementioned cities, at least more than I sort of picture in my head. So a few of you did challenge me to actually draw the United States map from memory without any clues whatsoever. I think when I come to do that video, it's going to be hilarious or painful. Painful for me, hilarious for you. I will do that, but that's it. I just wanted to throw these quirks out there. Hope you enjoyed them. So let me know in the comments below if you can think of any quirks to do with the map of the United States, or indeed any map around the world, and we'll address them as a group together. Alright, thank you. Bye. Thank you for watching this episode of Lost in the Pond. Don't forget to hit my stupid little face to subscribe, and please share this video with the world. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and if you would like to support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond.